Dust extractors are the perfect addition to any shop, especially when trying to keep as much dust as possible contained during those extra long sanding sessions. But this helpful machine comes along with one caveat. You have to drag your hose and your cord along with you every step of the way. Typically not too much of a problem if you're working on small stuff, but if you use your extractor for larger things or even on multiple tools, it can become quite cumbersome. Now I know what you're thinking, and I've thought of that as well. A boom arm, right? Well, yes, no, not really. A really great option, but in a garage shop where wall space is at a premium, I'd like to save as much as possible. Also, John at Lincoln Street Woodworks has a perfectly detailed video on that very thing, but I have a different idea in mind, even if I did draw a bit of inspiration from his video. Thanks, John. My setup consists of a metal track and trolley system that handles the cord and hose management. It keeps them up and out of the way, and I can slide it back against the wall for easy storage when not in use. Now you can outright buy a fix for this for about $500, but I want a little bit more of a permanent setup, and if I save a little bit of money, then that's a bonus. I began this project by prepping to add a cyclone separator in between the extractor and retractable hose. A couple of templates made quick work of this to fit the exact opening of the cyclone. I rough cut the parts with my jigsaw, then routed them to the final shape with the templates. The screw lid and bucket will be attached to the bottom side of the cyclone, making it extremely easy to empty when full. To make this work, I needed to create a hole in the lid. Some weather stripping and a few screws later, and we're in business. The two bracket pieces can now be glued together. I used a couple brad nails to hold it in place and then screws to cinch everything together. I added some bracing to the bracket just to beef it up a little. And now to get it attached to the wall. Now before I get the trolley section figured out, I'm going to add a dust cyclone in between the extractor and the hose to help preserve the life of the filter bag. This is a simple setup with the help of Oneida's Dust Deputy. This is the 5-gallon version. And what I did right here is I added a bracket to attach my 5-gallon bucket to the wall, which will make it easier to empty when the bucket fills up. Just like my big dust collector right behind me, it's a similar concept. Installing the cyclone to the bracket is simple. Just make sure to have the right length bolts to reach through the 2 layers of plywood. You can try and prepare ahead of time, or be like me and wait until you run into the problem and have to stop and wait for the next day, as all the big box stores were closed, a feeling I'm all too familiar with. Then, after careful planning, make sure to drill that hole for the hose in the wrong place. Alright, so now I need to run the hose from the cyclone down to the extractor, and that's what this hole right here is for. I accidentally messed up this hole right here, but I need to use it for the power cord anyway. I'm just using my leftover Syntec hose, which if you don't want to spend the money on Festool, go ahead and get one of these Syntec hoses. They're like 40 bucks with all the adapters and everything. It's amazing how perfectly this fits in between the water shutoff and my dust collector. So since my hose is coming from the backside, I'm actually going to do something a little crazy and drill a hole in the backside of this extractor. And I know I can just wrap the hose around and go through the front.
Really? Nothing.
But I'd like to keep this free and accessible if I ever need to set something on here or access the inside or whatever. Now I can get to work on the track itself, which is actually the easy part of the build. And here you see me using one of the first tools I ever bought, a Dremel Sawmax. I'm not sure if they even make them anymore, but it's the only version of an angle grinder that I currently own. To attach the track to the ceiling, I needed to drill a few holes as the standard ones were a bit too large for the screws I planned to use. Then it was a matter of locating the joists and securing the track to the ceiling. Quick test of the trolley. Getting the hose attached to the trolley is something I contemplated for a bit. There are plenty of options including J-hooks, bolts and Velcro, wood brackets, but I like to make everything difficult. So I 3D printed some hose brackets that will attach to each trolley. These took a bit of work, but I wanted to allow full movement of the hose when extending and retracting. I think this helps as it allows for the hose to rotate within the brackets, but also keeps the hose from slipping side to side. These brackets aren't perfect, but being one of the first 3D prints I modeled from scratch on my own, I think they turned out pretty good. I'll have to see how they hold up over time. As for attaching the brackets to the trolley, a bolt, 2 washers, and 2 nuts lock them down while leaving enough room to allow the bracket to swivel freely. Another washer and a nut secures it to the trolley. I forgot to film the making of the hook, but that will vary depending on the hose you plan to use. Here you see me installing the locking mechanism. At first I wasn't sure if this would work, but these MagSafe magnets are so strong this ended up working perfectly. Just lock it and it holds the carrier in place at any position along the track. Now it's as simple as sliding each trolley into the track, and I can now feed the hose through each bracket. Then locking the last bracket that will stay static at the end of the track. Lastly, I connected the 2 hoses together to create one really long hose. And now you can see me testing how the hose rotates within the brackets. And now that everything is up and out of the way, the hose is prevented from rubbing on the edge of the table, getting caught on corners, and I have plenty of extra hose to reach even further than before. All of this in a tightly coiled package that tucks away neatly when finished. And as luck would have it, I ran into one little hiccup. The plastic bucket was no match for the extreme suction from the extractor, so I quickly swapped it out for a steel bucket. A better option, but it's still crushed in on itself when connected to certain tools, so I'll address this by installing a pressure relief valve at some point. Here is a quick breakdown of the parts used, all coming in at just under $120, a far cry from the price of the boom arm mentioned earlier. And since I printed my hooks, I wasn't sure how to include them, but here's the price for the other 2 options. Lastly, parts for the Cyclone setup covered in the beginning. If you have any interest in the templates used for the wall mount, let me know in the comments. If I get enough interest, I might do a limited run of them, so let me know. And again, links to everything will be listed down in the description. And now, to finish this project off with some character. You may have wondered why the hook is so specific in shape, yet oddly familiar. Does it add anything to the helpfulness of this project? No, but it looks cool. Alright, so that does it for this one. Thank you for watching, everybody. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know you made it to the end of the video by typing the word FIRE in the comments down below. But until next time, I will see you all in your dreams.